Here's your Wisconsin Wine Guy back with another question that has been submitted to me. In fact, this is probably the question that is asked the most of me, whether it be online or even in person, is what kind of information can you get out of or off of a wine bottle? Like, can it tell you if the wine is good or not, or truly where it's from, or grapes and etc.? Well, you know what? So I'm going to give you just a brief overview of what information is contained on a wine bottle. As you can see, I have 4 bottles lined up in front of me, and each of these labels, apologies for the white labels, but each of these labels is something different. So I'm going to show you get up close on the white label, okay? How different that is. This is a local wine here in Wisconsin, versus a wine that's full of information, or a wine that just simply has an image on the label. So what can that tell you? So some people actually choose their wines by what the label looks like. So in this case, this would probably be a wine that people would choose based on the label, because it is a very nice label here. So now let's get down to it. What information would you find on a wine label, and how can it help you in selecting wines? Well, first and foremost, depending on the wine and the style of the label, you're going to get the name of the winery. In this case, the name of the winery is Los Vascos. Okay, versus, we all know Robert Mondavi. This particular one here is going to be Von Stiel. Then what is the name of this winery? All right, the name of this winery is going to be found on the side of the wine. Ledgestone Vineyards, the name of this winery. That's something else too. Some will say winery, some will say vineyards. The wine. What does that mean? Don't all wineries have vineyards? No. Oftentimes, wineries that actually have a vineyard on site or on their estate, they will add the name vineyard to the name of their winery. So that takes care of that. What else can you find on the label? Well, the year. In this case, looking at the Robert Mondavi, we have a 2018. So you'll have the year of the wines again on the front of most of the bottles, and most times you will not. In this case, the vintage is going to be on the side of the bottle, as you can see here. Okay. All right, so it really depends on the label. So you have the year. What is meant by the vintage? What does that tell you? Well, simply put, that is the year in which the grapes were harvested that made that wine. And well, what if it doesn't have a year on it? Well, then that's called non-vintage, meaning that it could be a combination or a blend of grapes from different wines from different vintages to produce that wine, non-vintage. Or it is a wine that the winery chose not to declare vintage because maybe the grapes themselves were subpar, but they produced the wine under a second label or third label just to sell the juice. So non-vintage can have 2 different meanings. But typically, vintage means the year in which the grapes were harvested that produced that wine. Other information you can find on the front of the bottle. In this case, this is going to be interesting. So it says here, estate grown. Also has the region in addition to the country. In this case, we have estate grown and, excuse my Spanish, Cochacua and Chile. So this comes from Chile, from that particular region, and it's estate. So what does it mean by estate grown? Meaning, if a bottle, in most cases, and it probably should be in all, but in most cases, if it says estate grown on the bottle, that means that the winery where the wines were made, the grapes are grown right there on the estate. Okay. Now, in this case, we have the Robert Mondavi that actually just simply says California. But what does that mean if it just says California? Well, obviously the wine was produced or made in California, but it cannot have a designated regional designation like this one does. Can have a designated regional designation because it's saying that the wine is from California, the California AVA, meaning the grapes could have been sourced from different vineyards along the coastal lines or throughout California. Some wineries have vineyards in different areas or different regions of California. All right, so that would take care of that. If it just simply says California, it could simply just say from Chile. No designation whatsoever. Or in this case, Von Stiel, which is a winery here in Wisconsin, the grape is Petite Sirah. So that brings us to this thing. So it says Amador. Okay, so these grapes are sourced from the Amador area region in California. I know that these grapes aren't grown here in Wisconsin. That's why I can say that. But sometimes you'll have on the bottles the name of the grape that was used to produce the wine, and sometimes you don't. You know, if it's not on the front, sometimes it's on the back. So in this case, we're looking at Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile, of course, Cabernet Sauvignon from California, Petit Syrah. The wine was made in Wisconsin, but the grapes were sourced from Amador in California. And then the Frontenac, let's get that in the light here. So the Frontenac here, okay, this is a grape, cool climate grape that's grown here in Wisconsin. Now what's so unique about this wine, and we're going to get to that, is the information on the label. Well, what does the back of the bottle, the label information about the winery? Well, that can tell you something completely different on each wine. In this case, the information about the wine is going to be on the side. All right, which I just showed you the grapes. So we're going to start first with the Frontenac. So the Frontenac is telling you the grape here is Frontenac. You know, and the description, you know, some wineries would just go straight to telling you about the wine. You know, the winemaker's impression about what the wine is going to taste like. You know, it may say something like, you know, aged in oak, and you get hints of berries, licorice, and mushroom. You know, something just to tempt your interest into purchasing the wine. But in this case, they're going to tell you, they're telling you information about the grape growing region or the area. And then when you get down to the bottom, it gives you just a simple, there's also Cabernet Franc. So this is blended with Cabernet Franc, a grape, and Frontenac, which is a local grape. So this is a blend, but they're talking more about, you know, the area for the grape growing. They're talking about what their estate is like in producing the grapes, and also definitely pointing out, you know, made here in Wisconsin. You know, so every wine is going to give you something different. This is going to talk more about, it's talking about the winery itself. I mean, Von Stiel is the oldest winery here in Wisconsin, so they're telling you information there about Von Stiel and their winemaking philosophies on their bottle. And this is telling you, you know, about, you know, Mondavi, a little bit about, you know, the Mondavi, but also talking about what's so special about this bottle is bourbon barrel aged, which you saw right there on the front. You know, but they're talking about the bourbon barrel aging. And then the Los Vascos, some wines will go into great detail. Look at the detail on this wine. They're talking, they break it down for you, talking about the region, talking about the grapes, you know, winemaker notes, you know, and telling you what you can enjoy with the kind of food. So the back of every label is going to be different. But there's also additional information. You know, on the back, this is crazy. I hope that one year, every label must have this information in the same spot, and that's the alcohol content. You can find alcohol content on the front of the bottles, you know, like on the label on the front. You can find it on the side in small print, you know, but you'll find it a lot on the back. So on the back of the bottle, right here, you'll see the alcohol content and also the bottle size, and then you also will have the importer information if the wine is imported. You know, so you have import information. So that's what you find out there. But here's the most important question. How do you know if it's a good wine or not? Well, the only way to know that is if something about that label and or the information you read interests you, buy the bottle and open it, and then decide for yourself. Let your palate be the guide. So it's your Wisconsin Wine Guy saying to you, that's how you read a wine label in a nutshell. See you next time. Bye.